Well, we probably better just go ahead and get started. Tim, if that's okay with you, if you're going to call the meeting to order.
Yep. I'm going to call the Sanitary District Board of Commissioners regular meeting Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024 p.m. To order. And the first thing on the agenda is the roll call. Do I do that, Mike? Or
Yeah.
do you want to do that?
Well,
all right.
we have Commissioner Tim Smith and Commissioner Holt Edinger and Commissioner Frank Harris on the call for the meeting, and we're absent Mr. Jeffrey Wright and our city engineer, and also President Gary Mitchell, and I don't believe our attorney's on the line either that I know of. So.
Okay. All right. So
The next thing was
let's go ahead and, okay, thanks, Mike. I'd ask for approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020, which is in your packet. Holt will make a motion. Do I have a second? Frank Harris, I second. Thank you, guys. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have none opposed. The minutes are passed. Item 4 is public comment. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing that there's none, Mike will move to Dan McCoy, the monthly safety report.
Good afternoon. In the month of April, we had 2 reportable injuries. One occurred in the refuse department when an employee injured his lower back while moving the refuse toter. And then we had another recordable injury to a mechanic in water reclamation. That employee felt his lower back while he was cleaning a secondary blanket detector. And each of those weigh less than 5 pounds. It's a bit of a strain or type of injury. The good news is that all individuals that have been on restricted work activity, those restrictions have been lifted by their treating physicians, and they're back to work without restrictions. So that's the good news from that report. In addition to that, in April, considerable amount of activity devoted to the COVID-19 hazard awareness and prevention, and on my monthly report I listed over a dozen activities that have taken place. And it really gets around to hazard recognition, prevention, answering questions that employees have about potential exposures and how to clean surfaces and wear respirators, different topics like that. And I'm sure Mike will talk a bit more about the COVID-19 health and emergency updates with the safeguard plan, so I'll leave that part to Michael. With that, that's my report for the month. Are there any questions?
Jim Meyer.
Just joined the conference.
Hey, Jim.
There.
Hey, everybody.
Mr. McCoy was asking if there's any questions regarding his safety report for the month of April.
Frank or Holt, are there any questions? I don't have any.
No, I don't have any.
It's a really nice detailed report. Thank you. Yeah. Dan. Seeing as there's no questions, we'll move on. Dan, thank you very much. I echo Holt's comments. It was a great report, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mike, I'm going to turn the opening of the quotes, bids, or proposals over to you. Let's
Okay.
start with white ditch dredging quotes. Please.
Okay, very good. We received 3 quotes for the white ditch dredging. They are Woodruff and Sons from Michigan City, Indiana. Their quote was $189,000, $805 and of course 88 cents. The next quote we received was from HRP out of South Bend, Indiana, and their quote was for $182,000 even. And then the third quote that we received was from D&M Excavating, and their quote was for $178,303. And I'd ask the board for approval for us to review these quotes and come back to the next board meeting with a recommendation of how to proceed.
So moved. Hold. Second? Is there a second?
Frank? Hello? Oh boy.
This is Frank Harris. I think I made the motion, or did I? But I'll second it.
That's your second line. Oh, I'll second it then. We might have done it at the same time. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passed. Mike will let you review and get back to us.
Okay, then that, okay, very good.
So let's do the Russell Sewer reline quotes.
Well, this will be an easy one because we received no quotes. So,
Michael,
yes.
that's not exactly correct.
Oh, well, I didn't get any that I saw, so. Did we have one, Steve?
Yeah, the quarter sent this to you as well. This is Weed Inc. from Warsaw, Indiana.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh, I do see it now. Yes, I do.
yeah, their quote is $44,000, $44,700.
Okay, I'm sorry that I missed that. Mr. Stanford is correct. I do see it here. It's one of the reasons I brought my phone in with me. Their bid was unit rate. How much was the total? I don't see the total on here anywhere.
It's because we didn't have a total on the sheet.
I see, I see. So it's $43,700?
$44,700.
$44,700. So I'd ask the board to allow us a chance to review this quote and come to the next board meeting, or is this something that needs to be done right away, Steve?
That sewer is leaking a lot of sand. We cleaned it and inspected it once, and it's at risk.
So I'd ask the board to allow us to review the quotes and work with our attorney to enter into a contract to do this work if we feel it's an adequate price and if they're responsive and everything to the quote.
I have a motion. Michael, this is Frank.
Yes, sir.
What was so specialized about that we didn't get quotes from someone else? Do you have any idea?
We were trying to do a reline on this sewer instead of having to dig it up and replace it, because when you reline it's a lot cheaper. And I know we were having trouble finding other contractors in the area that do this work, but I also know we sent it out to a few different ones. I don't know why they didn't respond. Do you have any ideas, Steve?
Michael, we sent this out to 5 different contractors. One highbrow outfit said we don't do partial reline.
Mm-hmm.
And now, the contractor that did respond did a very nice job for us out on Highway 12 there, on the west side of town. And so we have experience with this contractor, and the guy is very conscientious.
This is the people from Warsaw in the city?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I think I know them, because I'm originally from Warsaw area, so I think I know them. So in that case, I'll make a motion for you to approve and look over the quotes.
Do I have a second?
And
Not only to look over it,
Right.
but to award the contract.
Okay. I'll amend that to make it over for you to peruse, and we'll look it over, and then I recommend that if you feel it's acceptable to go ahead and issue approval for the quote.
Okay, a second on that, please.
You have it, sir.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, that,
Strebel Pond renovation proposals.
okay, we received two proposals for Strebel Pond. The first one was from Williams Creek Management Corporation. For the base proposal, they had $103,310. For alternative one, they had $12,830. And for alternative two was $103,690. And then they're from Plainfield, Indiana. And then the next proposal we received was from Applied Ecological Services, and I know they have a main office in Wisconsin, in Boarhead, Wisconsin, but I think they also have an office here in Maryville, Indiana also. Their base proposal was $52,331, and their alternative number one proposal cost was $9,961, and their alternative two proposal price was $73,676. And I'd ask the board to allow us to review these proposals and come back to the board at our June meeting with a recommendation of how to proceed.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
I'll second it. It's hold.
Is there any questions from any of the commissioners before we vote on it?
Just joined the conference.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on Strebel Pond renovation proposals. Who just joined?
Jeff Wright.
Oh, hey Jeff, how are you?
Good, how you guys doing?
Good, this is Tim Smith. So, just, Mike, if you can put on the record, please, that Jeff has joined the call.
Yeah, right after we were ready to vote on item 6C, on Strebel Pond renovation proposals. Hi Jeff, how are you doing?
Good, how you guys doing?
We're hanging in there. Hey, Commissioner Smith, for your information and also for Mr. Meyer's information, joined a tad late too. Gary Mitchell was unable to join us tonight. He got tied up with some work, so we just went ahead and proceeded. And Tim's running the meeting since he's our vice president. Under the opening of quotes and bids and proposals, I've got one more that's not on the agenda. It's an urgent sewer repair that we typically don't open these up at the board meetings, but since it was due today at 3 o'clock, I thought I would just go ahead and read it. It's for a Kentucky Street sewer that's collapsing and an urgent repair. Is that all right if I go ahead and read that, Mr. Smith?
No, please do, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you.
We received two quotes from this. The first one was from Woodruff and Sons. It was for $1,085, and oddly enough, no 88 cents. So $1,085. And then the second quote we received was from,
Michael,
yes.
Michael.
I'm sorry, I'm reading it wrong. I see that now. Let me back up on that. The Woodruff quote was for $22,673.88. There's your 88 cents. And if they needed to do a residential lateral, that was an additional $1,085. Thank you, Mr. Stanford. And then the D&M quote was for $15,859, and if necessary for the reinstatement of the residential lateral was $515. So this is an urgent repair that, of course, for these type of repairs, I already have the authority to move forward with this type of work. I will review this and we'll send a note out to the board of which way we decide to go and how we decide to do this. Okay?
All right, thanks, Mike.
Very
Thanks for letting us know about this.
You're welcome. I always try to send those out to you every time we get one, just so you're aware of them. Do you want me to just go on then, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I understand. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, as you may or may not be aware, Governor Holcomb required every business in the state of Indiana to put together a plan with his executive order 20-16, requiring all businesses and other entities to develop a plan for maintaining a safe environment for workers and members of the public as, you know, we resume opening for COVID. Technically, I don't know that we needed to do this, but Steve and I thought it was a good idea, so we put this together. Steve did most of the work. I did some editing and some suggestions to some of the sections, and I want to thank Steve for a fine job that he did putting this together. Thank you, Steve. Basically, it talks about, you know, the purpose and our organization plan, general health screening process. Basically, we grouped them into two groups, Group A symptoms and Group B symptoms. If you have any one of the Group A symptoms, then actions are taken, and if you have any two of the Group B symptoms, actions are taken. We actually had to implement this last week with one of our employees. Had one item from Group A and actually a couple items from Group B. Three from Group B, and the person was, you know, ordered to not come to work as per our other memo that we had from March about if they're experiencing any symptoms, and also in accordance with this plan. The person was tested for COVID and turned out to be tested negative. So that was very good news. I will say, for those of you out there that follow this, the person that we're talking about, who I'm not going to say the person's name, never had a fever, never really had a fever. So I was somewhat confident that may not have had the COVID, but as you read, some people don't have those things. So we also talked in here about, you know, hygiene, social distancing, and workstations, meetings, public access. One thing we've been doing is when we're outside of our office, we've been wearing masks in the hallways, and when we're coming into other people's areas. I'm not wearing one right now because other than the TV camera individual, I'm the only one in here, and so there's really not a need for that. But other than that, we've been trying to practice all this stuff, and soon we're going to have to expand on this plan a little bit for opening up the office. I think we'll probably be looking at sometime in June or July before we do that. Other than that, though, things have been going really well. Are there any other questions about the COVID safeguard plan?
Thank you guys, and Steve too, because I looked through it. It's pretty detailed, you know, what to do, you know, to self-assess yourself, and then if you feel you do have some of those, then what are the next steps? So I think that those things are really important, and, you know, if other city departments don't have something like this, I would encourage you guys to share it with them, because I think it lays things out pretty well. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you for the compliments. Go ahead, Steve.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
And I will tell you that we did take the plan and we sent it to the mayor for his approval, and also I sent it to the mayor and his assistants. I also sent them a Microsoft Word version of the plan, and I, you know, put right in my note that any of the other city departments that would want to use this as a guideline, you know, change a few words here and there or anything, feel free. And if they wanted any help with anything, we offered to also help them with that. So, wanted you to know that also.
That's great.
So, I hope to have just one comment, Michael, Steve, whoever, the individual, which we will not say the person's name, but I happen to have some knowledge, and I wanted to commend what a terrific job you guys did on handling that, in aiding and doing the best that the district could do according to these, you know, these safeguards. That was just excellent action, and of course there was a much desired result. So well done to the office, Michael and Steve and everybody who had communicated with this individual and did what you did and found out what you found out. Well done.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we were pretty much in constant communication. We're also giving advice on where to possibly get tested and so forth. As everybody knows, it's almost nearly impossible to get tested for this COVID-19, it seems like. And finally, we found somewhere he was able to find. We found two places actually first, and then he found another place. So it worked out well. And I just want to say, I don't want to go on and on about this, but you know, certainly nobody wants to see anybody get sick with COVID-19 or anything like that, no matter who they are. But in our wastewater treatment plant, it's so critical because if we were to get all the staff sick in this wastewater treatment plant, you know, we would be in huge, big trouble. Who's going to operate the plant if nobody can come in? So it's ultra critical that we take the steps that we did. So thank you for the compliments, and again, I thank Steve for his help with the issue too. But we both worked on it pretty hard.
Thank you very much. If there's no other questions, let's move on to item 8, financial report. Scott Kistler.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, I'll begin by reading the cash balances as of April 30th, 2020. The operating fund had $1,038,601.13. The Horizon Municipal account had a negative balance of $1,988.05. I'll come back to that in a minute. The improvement fund had $842,895.03. Vehicle replacement, $46,735.48. Equipment replacement fund had $590,053.46. The grant fund had a zero balance, for a total in that bank account of $2,516,297.05. The Indian Springs project had a balance of $6,385.37, and the Whippoorwill project had $296.52, for a total in that bank account of $6,681.89. The SRF debt reserve had a balance of $499,329.44, and the SRF bond and interest had a balance of $131,551.07, for a total at BNY Mellon of $630,880.51. Stormwater at $458,070.17. The refuse fund had $592,339.66. The special revenue fund had $13,546.34. The levy excess had $8,522.14. And the tax levy grant fund had a negative balance of $340,196.51. I'll come back to that one in a minute too. For a total in that bank account of $732,281.80. Carwick remediation fund had $387,745.33 for total cash balances of $4,273,886.58. And just a few comments on the cash balances. That municipal account that had a negative balance, that was an error that had to be corrected, and it was corrected on May 1st. So it's, that was corrected. And on the tax levy grant fund, that negative balance, we've applied for more than that in grant request. We filed, I believe, one. Michael sent off another one, and we're also going to file something with the Redevelopment Commission. But that will, when we get those reimbursements, that will become a positive number. So that's where we're at. We just spent ahead of the actual collecting, because most grants you gotta pay it and then they reimburse you. So, and overall the cash is doing we're doing pretty well. And the water, the receipts we get from the water department so far are in line with what we got last year. So that's good news. And I believe the property taxes, we're going to get some in June ahead of, and then we'll get the rest in either July or August. So, and I think we have, we have enough cash. Everything's, we'll be able to keep going. So, if anybody has any questions?
Any questions? Keep going, Scott.
Okay. And then, the next three things that I sent you were the budget performance reports for the operating fund, refuse fund, and stormwater fund. And if you look at the last page and all those, the expenses are underneath like 33%, and we're 1/3 of the way through the year. So, we're in line with our budget across the board. Stormwater's a little different because we only actually spend that money, most of it in June and December. So that number, we only spent like 4%, but, we'll be up near 45% at the end of June. So that's kind of what's going on with those. So everything looks pretty good. We're doing pretty well against the budget so far. So any questions?
Are there any questions by the board members?
This is not, I don't have anything.
I just had a
Okay, well,
I had a question / maybe it's more of a comment, Scott, that maybe you could expand on if necessary. But this report goes through April, correct? So that would be 1/3 of the year. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, and then I just wanted to point out that I know there's been a lot of talk about hiring and hiring freezes and so forth. And while our revenue fund, the operating fund, so far in April and May have been doing okay. As we've said a few times already, we really think we're going to probably see a pretty big downturn in June and July and maybe even August in those funds because it's going to be some lag for the funds to come in. But with the tax revenue, there's been a lot of speculation about what we're going to see on that, and could be that we see the same kind of revenues we normally see, and it obviously could be worse. But I just wanted to point out about the salaries and wages, which is expense number 411 on the refuse fund. I guess it's page 2. It must be page 2. We're right about at 30%, 29% of our expenditures right now, and that's with being down a number of employees. So we're just a little nervous about trying to ask for approval to hire anybody for that department right now because we're not really sure what we're going to see on the tax revenues, and we're pretty much, we're a little bit less than 1/3, but pretty close to it right now with less employees than we normally have in that department. So I just wanted to point that out. Maybe after we see these revenues at the end of June, maybe we'll have a better handle on what we can do.
Okay.
Yep. And I would agree with everything Michael just said. I mean, I think the hiring freeze should continue until we get through June and see where we're really going to be.
So, do you guys anticipate after the second, we've got two property tax payments. Do you guys foresee anything, close to the end of the year? Sometimes we're tight towards the end of the year. Scott, what are you foreseeing, foreshadowing for, as I know there's a lot of variables, whether we have a lot of rain, whether we have, what time the leaves are picked up and some of those things, as it progresses. But, do you see anything that tends to worry you on this at all?
Well, I talked with the city controller last week, and we talked about this. She had talked to Joey Winsky, and what she was hearing on the property tax side, which is most of the taxes we collect. I mean, we also get a share of the wind tax, but it's primarily, we don't get as much in the other taxes that are taking the bigger hit, like, the sales tax and fuel tax and those types of things. Our share of that relatively small. Most of ours comes from property taxes, and so far it sounds like, what I've heard is they've collected like roughly 80% so far of the June, and they've given people until July to pay it. So that's why they're saying that we'll probably see some payment in June and another one in July. We actually had built up a little extra cash. I mean, not a lot, but in both stormwater and refuse, over the last couple of years, because we've kind of tried to, control our spending. So we had built up a little bit. I think we're going to be okay through the end of the year. But, that today, depends what happens with the COVID over the next, 2-3 months.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
could I add something? This is Holt. Do we have a worst-case scenario plan or two that's in place or that we're developing besides just watching and remaining positive?
I really haven't put one together yet, but I can. I could do it for the second half of the year. Once at the next board meeting, I can have stuff for you, but like I said, it'll give us a better idea once we get through, as we get through June, as Michael was saying with the water department receipts and, the tax. I think we'll be in a better position, and I'll put something together and send it out with the packet next month.
Well, and let me also say that, I know we don't have a written quote-unquote worst-case scenario plan, because first of all, worst case scenario, you could go to some extremes on that, but let's just say that, our revenues are down on refuse, for instance. Let's say they're down 30%, okay? We'll have to find some way to get through, and I think at the sanitary district, we should be okay, because I think we have some reserves and some other funds that we could loan money to the refuse department if we needed to. I've looked at it many times, and I know Scott has too, regarding the operating fund. And if we were going to go down 30%, even for 6 months, 30% revenues, I'm confident with our cash balances that we'll be okay. Refuse is the wild card there, because you just don't know what's going to happen with the tax. You hear so many different things. We were hearing 50% collection for a while there, and I know other people, some of them you are on the line right now, never saw that really happening. So I think that, worst case scenario, we haven't written a plan out, but I think we'll be okay, because I think we have enough reserves in some of these other funds, barring something, like a national disaster or something. And I don't mean that. I mean like a natural disaster was the word I was looking for. Those are the kind of things that could really shake you up. If you had something bad happen, like a tornado or, an earthquake or something like that, you could really, that could put a dent in you. That's why you need to have these reserves in the first place. But I think with the COVID, I think we'll be okay, Hope.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mike, let me ask you a question about that with natural disasters. Is there any, and I haven't looked at we didn't ask Charlie about this, but is there ever anything in our insurance policy for natural disasters? I know you can't predict COVID, but is there, or do we just have to build up revenues for those cases?
I don't know the answer to your question. I'm sure our insurance, would depend on what happened. I'm sure our insurance would cover a lot of different things if, buildings and pumps got destroyed. And for instance, we had a power outage, as I think we've talked about at these board meetings. If we haven't, just very quickly, we had a power surges here the last month or two, and we've actually made some claims for the insurance on that, and they're actually, working with us and coming through, helping us with that. So, that's what you got to look out for. But, and maybe natural disasters even the wrong. If we had a major sewer collapse, if the 72-inch sewer, knock on wood, were to collapse, you could be looking at a $1 million repair, pretty easily, depending on what would happen, So those are the kind of things you want to have these reserves for. But in the short run, you could also use them to to help yourself out in other areas where you need to, like anybody does in their household, you know, at home. You know, that's how you got to get through, and helping your friends and neighbors out too. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Good, Scott.
This is Jeff, and it might be a little off topic, but just can you help me understand? We're talking about salaries and wages, and you're saying we're down a number of employees, but we're at about 33% of where the budget is for the year, and we're about 33% of the way through the year. Does that imply if all of the employees were here, we would be behind?
Well, the one thing that drives that 33% through April is we make our vacation bonus payment every February, and that's, you know, spread over the year. So like it was all paid in February, so it kind of drives that percentage up a little bit. And then not only that, we lost someone retired, and when people retire, you have to pay longevity and vacation bonus for what they would be entitled to this year. So those things kind of brought that percentage up. It's probably more along 28, 29%.
Well, it is 29%, and really, Jeff, to answer your question, you know, rather bluntly, yeah, that's basically what we're saying. We'd have to provide you a more in-depth analysis. You know, we haven't had a superintendent at the refuse department in like 4 years now or something. I don't know. I thought I wrote a memo. I wrote a memo to the mayor about this, and also I think to the mayor about this. You know, we've cut so many costs. I mean, you weren't here, but when we had the big tax thing, I mean, the refuse department was like hundreds of thousands of dollars in the red because of the tax revenue problems that we had in Michigan City. And we really tightened our belt, and like you said, for instance, there hasn't even been a superintendent at the refuse department for many years now because we just can't afford a superintendent in the refuse department. And we're doing all that we can, you know, that we can do to keep our head above water in the refuse department. And we've done a pretty nice job. We've built up some stuff. But yeah, we're at 29% revenue right now. You know, maybe we should be at 34%, so that's, or 33% through April. So that's, you know, 4%. You know, we're a little bit ahead of the game, 4% there. Like Scott says, there's a few other things here and there that come into play, but, you know, we also just need to be careful. You know, last thing you want to do is hire somebody and then have to lay them off, you know? So, I don't know, does that answer your question?
It kind of does. I mean, I was looking at it from the perspective, if we had all the positions filled and all the people were being paid, collecting wages and salary up through April, and that 33% number in the salaries and wages, that would be a lot higher.
Well, it's 29%. It's 29% right now in refuse. And
Yeah,
yes.
operating's like it.
Yeah, operating was right there, 33%, right.
Yeah, and that's because we've actually pretty much, you know, it's right where we budgeted that. Because we really didn't add people in operating, we just kept it where it was for last year. So that's why it's pretty much right on 33.
So you're all behind, apparently. Not all the positions are always being paid full salary, full wages.
No, and it also goes back to what you budget and everything. We'd have to go back to see what we budgeted for. You know, we may not have budgeted for full staff either. I'm not 100% sure, you know, how many people we have on our staffing chart that are approved for refuse. I don't have all that information right here in front of me. And, but we can certainly...
We budgeted for... Yeah.
We can certainly look at it more closely.
People that we have.
We can certainly look at it more closely.
I didn't want to hijack the meeting. I was just trying to get a little better understanding of what I was looking at.
I'm just bringing it up because if you know or don't know, there's a lot of work that the refuse department's doing. You know, there's a lot of terms that are used, short-staffed, and you know, short-staff's in the eye of the beholder. But certainly they could use at least 1 or 2 more people in the refuse department, but we've been a little reluctant because we're just not sure what kind of tax revenues we're going to receive. If this was a normal year, we would have hired 2 people by now. And yeah, we might even be a little bit over 33% right now because of some of the things that Scott was saying. But when we don't know what kind of tax revenues we're going to get, it's just a little bit scary to go out and hire a couple more people.
Understood.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Good.
So we're going on to item 9 now?
Yes. Go ahead, Mike. Let's do the updates, project updates, Cheney Run Stormwater Project.
In your packet or on the shared drive, there was a memo from Ted Blanick to Rod Edgel with the ID&R. Lair grant requires us to do a monthly progress report, so this is the progress report I use for this. Their ID&R's made a couple recommendations to the cross vein that we put into Trail Creek, and that work's tentatively scheduled for June 3rd. Erosion control practices are in place and being monitored. The paved berm is 90% complete, including the extension to the bridge to facilitate maintenance. Substantial completion of the construction requiring heavy equipment has been delayed due to weather and is now scheduled for mid-June. And I just can also add that I've been out to the site several times during some pretty substantial rains that we've had here, and it seems to be working. Although it's not 100% done, it seems to be working just as designed. It seems to be doing a really nice job so far. The next thing we had was a pay request for HRP. We like to put these larger projects and these pay requests, these are on the docket, but there's a pay request for $168,066 for HRP. And it's been reviewed and verified by myself and staff, and I'd ask the board to approve this pay to HRP.
So this is invoice number 3, correct?
It's pay request number 3, invoice 15543.
Yeah. Can I get a motion, please, for this pay request?
Jeff will make the motion, approve invoice 1554-3 for the amount.
Is there a second?
It's Frank Harris, I second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Go ahead, Mike, go on to the
Okay, and then
pay request.
for V3, we have the construction engineering pay request for $10,130.45. And I would ask, this has been reviewed and verified by myself and staff, and I would ask the board to approve this.
It's Frank Harris. I'll make a motion to approve invoice 320200 to V3.
This is, I'll second.
$10,130.45.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, Mike, with the other V3 request.
The other V3 request really should go down under item 9C, so I'll hold off on that one for a second, okay? The Milestone fence contract, I just want to let you know that that contract has been signed and they've ordered the fence and so forth. It was $115,750. I think that was approved at the last board meeting to enter into the contract. That's all been done. And also, I don't have it here on the agenda, but the contract for the trees and the shrubs has been awarded and to Cardinal as approved by the board members. And they should be doing the planting of that stuff. I think they're scheduled to do that Friday, so that's going very well. So if I could move on to item 9B. The Carwick project update, that site is still looking very nice. A lot of trees have been planted if you've been out there. They've all been planted in accordance with the plan, One of the issues that we might be having is the shore socks. You might remember from some of the presentations we did on the PowerPoint, that innovative design along the shore to help erosion. What we've noticed is happening is the shore sock is tightening up, and as it's tightening up, it's kind of lifting off the surface of the ground, and there's a lot of grass growing, but it's underneath the shore sock, and it's not really coming through very good in some spots, and some spots it's coming through very well. So we've asked the engineer to talk with the contractor about staking it down. Steve went out and did a little test area with some stakes, and he says it looks a lot better when we're staking it down. Some additional erosion controls measures are needed at the intersections of the upland areas and the bank locations. And once the stone ramp is constructed down to the bank at the north end of the project, they'll remove the final 1 foot of clay, and the shore socks will need to be installed there. That's the temporary bridge that I think is going across over to the Cheney Run side. Are there any questions about the Carwick dump site?
Michael?
What are you using for the stakes?
I would just like to add that we applied the first application of deer repellent.
We also purchased some deer repellent because, as you folks probably know, deers love to eat small trees. And so Steve and I talked about that. Steve ordered some deer repellent, and we went out on our own, and we applied a what do you want to call it, a dose to all the trees out there. So we're hoping that that'll help keep the deer away. And then Jeff asked a question about the stakes. Steve, can you answer that question? What types of stakes?
State that. I did not hear that.
I was wondering about the stakes. I mean, are they just curious is all. Are they rebar stakes? Are they wood stakes? Are they 2 feet long, 10 foot long? I mean, tell me about the stakes a little bit.
Well, there's two options. We can use metal staples that are 4 to 6 inches long, or we can use biodegradable plastic stakes that are 6 inches long.
The ones that you used in your little test area were the metal ones?
Yeah, the metal staples, and I also last week applied a number of those biodegradable plastic stakes.
And do you know what type the contractor is planning on using?
No, sir.
Do you have a preference, Mr. Wright, as to which type we use?
No, I didn't. I was just curious. The shore socks runs along the edge of the street. I didn't know if it was a more aggressive stake. I mean, are we going down 2 foot with a stake, or it's really more like a staple, I guess.
Yep.
We're talking about.
Yep.
Okay. No, I understand. That's fine.
Okay, should I move on to item 9C, which is the Cheney Run Carwick amenity study? First of all, we have this update here. We had our public webinar on April 29th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I don't know if any of you participated in it. It went pretty well. I think there was only one minor glitch with the presentation on the, what was it, Zoom or whatever it's called. That worked out pretty well. We got, some feedback, and we're going to take that into consideration. Other highlights is they're working on the preliminary design soon. They should have it done pretty soon. They're continuing to work on permitting and coordinating with other agencies, and they continue to move towards a final design. They've gotten some feedback from Steve and myself. There's some issues about the kayak launch. We'd like to have a kayak launch, but I don't think the DNR is too excited about a kayak launch in that area because they're afraid that everybody's going to kayak down to the lamprey barrier. So we're going to try to work with the DNR on that also to see what their concerns are. Some of this stuff, these updates sometimes are a little bit behind schedule. Another thing that we did that I don't think in this memo, but we've also reached out to the wildlife people, the Wildlife Federation people that we have our SOGO grant with to sustain our Great Lakes grant, because we have some extra money left over in that grant because the project came in way under budget for the Cheney Run. So we talked to them about if we could use some of that SOGO money to help out with the recreational amenities, and they were very receptive, at least initially. They wanted to know more of the details, so we being myself and Jack Eskin and Steve worked on a memo, and it was sent off to them last week. One of the issues that we're having is with these projects, as you guys know, a lot of times your upfront cost, just to mobilize and get everything going is a lot of times a big chunk of the project. So we'll see what they say, as I don't know how else we'd be able to fund these recreational amenities. Now, the study, don't forget, is funded partially by a grant and partially by the Redevelopment Commission. So there's no cost to the sanitary district for the study that we're doing. And along those lines, we have this pay request for $4,670 from V3. It's been reviewed and verified by sanitary district, and I'd like to ask the board for approval of that.
I'm going to approve the pay request from V3 recreational amenities invoice number 420421 for $4,670.
Frank Harris, I second.
I need a motion, I'm sorry. Frank, can you do a motion?
Oh, I thought there was a motion that was made.
No, I apologize, sorry.
No, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the invoice number 42421.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Jeff will second it.
Thanks, Jeff. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Not opposed? The motion passes.
All right, and before I leave the training run, Scott Kistler touched on this a little bit earlier, but I just want you to know that we have turned all three of the HRP invoices in for reimbursement. Two of them to the Delta Institute for reimbursement through our grants, and a third one to the Redevelopment Commission. We sent that to them just last week, and then I just can't remember if I sent the one for the recreational amenities to them or not, but they have agreed to pay for one half of the recreational amenities study, so we will be reimbursed for all those items. I think Scott hit on that when he talked about our budget and our cash flow. So, okay, should I go on then to item 9D?
Please, Mike.
The Southgate Stormwater Improvement Project, substantial completion certification for the basin alternative, that's in progress. Substantial completion milestone for the work, that's the rear yard drains, is now scheduled for June 15th. One of the things is, ironically, there's very bad drainage behind these homes, and when they went in to try to do the work in these rear yards, guess what? They couldn't go in to do the work because there was too much water standing everywhere. So really kind of shows the need for the work. So they're probably going to have to request an extension to the contract because of these rain delays. But it's something that once it dries out, we'll get in there, they'll get the work done, and it'll really be an improvement for those that take care of a problem that's been a long-standing problem over there. So I guess that's the summary on the Southgate project. We have a D&M excavating invoice for that for $135,986.91. It's been reviewed and verified by the sanitary district, myself and employees, and I'd ask the board for approval of invoice number C206398.
This is all so moved. Okay, a second?
Second. Good fun.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen. And again, I just want to stress that this is another project that's being paid for by the Redevelopment Commission from their South TIF. And as Scott indicated in his financial update, he will be sending a memo to the Redevelopment Commission asking for reimbursement of this $135,968.91. Okay. The North End study, item 9E. They've been coordinating with the sanitary district to obtain additional data on about 10 to 15 structures. Our GIS coordinator and Steve have been working with them. They began to develop the hydraulic and hydrologic model for the storm sewers. They delineated the drainage areas. They're about 45% complete, and the hydraulic model is 35% complete. Next steps is they want to update and complete the stormwater shapefile databases. They want to finish the creation of the models. They want to begin the capacity analysis and engage sub-consultant services as necessary for modeling capacity, and then obviously complete the final report. Do you know, Mr. Stanford, what is the date that we could expect the final report on this North End study?
I am sorry, I do not.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll try to get that for the next board meeting. This has been going on for quite a while, so hopefully we can get this final study done pretty soon. I'm going to go on to the Long Beach Sewer project. It's a Long Beach Lakeshore Drive Sewer, and PER stands for Preliminary Engineering Report Project. List of documents required by SRF section of IDEM regarding the Lakeshore Drive Sewer PER was received via email. We had a conference call with them late last week to talk about our response with the folks down in Indianapolis, and that response is due Friday, which we should have no trouble getting that out. A list of PER review comments was also received from IDEM, and Haas and Associates is working on that. A response to item 3 was emailed to the SRF section on May 21st, along with a schedule for submitting the items to the number 1 documents. And the required arrangement between the sanitary district and the town of Long Beach concerning the project must be finalized. I think that, Mr. Meyer, didn't you try to take some matters into your own hands and try to work on a draft for this?
Yeah, I prepared a draft of more an outline, a total, worded agreement. It's been forwarded to, and was forwarded to, Long Beach's attorney, Chris Willoughby. Chris and I had a telephone conference on Tuesday about it.
Good.
He's gonna make some suggested, changes or edits. They, meaning the Town of Long Beach Council, are to be, passing a resolution at their next meeting, which is coming up here in the next couple of weeks, maybe sooner, to request the sanitary district to incorporate the area within the boundaries of the town of Long Beach into the sanitary district, so that, we don't have to have, for instance, separate use agreements with every resident. Also, it helps in reference to the SRF loan, which is solely source funded from either the customers of Long Beach, what the plan is, but if for whatever reason one or more of them fail to pay as what they're supposed to, the town of Long Beach will have to guarantee the loan.
Well, that's some good progress on that. I know you've been waiting for quite a while to hear some response from Long Beach, and I think you did the right thing to try to take the initiative on that. Thank you, Mr. Meyer, for doing that. And one other thing that's not on this summary, but one of the things we have to have is a public hearing, and we talked about just doing that like a virtual public hearing if we have to because of COVID-19. So, are there any other questions for Mr. Meyer or anyone regarding the Long Beach sewer project?
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
Okay. The next thing is our energy savings report that we like to put in each month. The page 2.
What about White Ditch and
Oh, I missed all that. Sorry. White Ditch Cleaning Project quotes were due today, and we read those. I don't know if you were on the line, Mr. Meyer, when we were reading them. Were you on the line?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff. I don't know if you heard those. We received 3 quotes. One was $189,805, $182,000, and the third one I think was $178,303. So we've got to review those and determine how we were going to pay for that. And then Strebel Pond restoration, we received those bids in today, or those proposals in today, and we're going to review those. I think they were in the neighborhood of 100,000 and what was the other one? 53,000 for the base proposal.
Yeah.
Item 9I is the 300 North and US Highway 421 sewer project. We've talked about this in the past, and I'm pretty sure it was December of 2018, the Board of Commissioners passed a resolution to accept the wastewater from this project, and it may have included being able to do the operation and maintenance, but we had not yet agreed or did not agree to providing any cash or financial support for the project. The county is now looking at rejuvenating this project, and they've asked for an economic development grant. Also, we just found out today that the Loves, they want to put a Loves truck stop out there. I guess that that might be actually moving forward now. So it sounds like that project's going to be in the works. And again, I just want to make it very clear that at this stage, the City of Michigan City Sanitary District for sure has not agreed to offer any financial support for this project. Certainly, we're willing to treat the wastewater that's generated from there, and we have the capacity. We did a whole capacity study before that showed we had all the capacity we need to do that. So, is there any questions about that project?
No, go ahead, Mike, move on.
Okay, Pine Tree Court Sewer Extension. You may remember that we had an agreement with developer Wally Pritz to pay for half of the design for the sewer extension to get underneath US Highway 20. At the time, initially, there was some talk about trying to do that while they were doing the repair to US Highway 20, and that really didn't seem to work out very well at all because of different contractors, and there really isn't that big of an advantage. John Doyle did the design as a jack and bore project, and the design work is all done, ready to go out for bids or quotes. I think it can go out for quotes. I don't think it's over 150 if I remember correctly. And we were waiting to see what Mayor Perry's feelings were about moving forward with this project. I think I reported at a board meeting a couple of board meetings ago, maybe in February, that I had met with Mayor Perry, and he was supportive of us moving forward. And I also talked to him again about this maybe a couple weeks ago. And what he has asked us to do is to move forward with this project and for the sanitary district to fund the payment of it. As it turns out, I guess we need to verify some of this stuff to make sure, make 100% sure. But there's a sewer that we have on Woodland Avenue, and apparently we don't have any easements for the sewer on Woodland Avenue. I know Mr. Meyer can vouch that this is the first time he's ever heard of us not having an easement for a sewer in Michigan City. But Mr. Pritz, I guess, has agreed to give us, because he owns the property along Woodland, to give us an easement for our sewer if we put this sewer extension from Pine Tree Court across US Highway 20. So right now, I just asked the board for approval for us to at least move forward with this project and put together with some kind of report at our June meeting.
Do I have for the Pine Tree Sewer Extension to move forward, please?
Jeff will make the motion to move it forward.
Second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We'll give you an update at the next meeting where we stand on that, and we'll try to get the wheels in motion for moving forward. Okay, so then the next thing we have is the energy savings report. Thank you, Mr. Meyer, for catching those items that I went past. For May 2020, which is on page 2, it's highlighted in red. We had a savings based on our new calculated rate of $7,783.83. So that's not too bad when you look at that. And I think that trying to find some of these stuff here. Our first year savings was $55,802, and the second year savings, I think it might be a prorated. So far, we're looking at possibly saving $69,032, but you would expect us to be saving more because the rates went up. So we're using less energy, plus the rates went up, so we're going to be saving a little bit more. That's the nice part about the energy savings project is using less energy, it tends to pay back. And then also, don't forget, we also put those capacitors in, which I think are really helping us out quite a lot. I've been updating you in general terms about the ESG Year 1 report. We had sent them another letter since the last board meeting, and we received a response. And in their response, they finally agreed that there's a shortfall, that we're not seeing the kind of savings that we should be seeing. There's still some discussion about the terms of the shortfall and the numbers, so we're still working through that, but we are definitely making, I think, some progress. Did you have anything you wanted to add on that, Mr. Meyer?
No, I think that accurately reflects the situation at this point.
Okay, so we will continue to update the board as we move forward. We did send them another letter one day last week, I believe, Thursday or Friday of last week, so we'll see. I think we asked for a response by the end of this week, so we'll see how that goes. Any questions on energy savings? One more item, one more thing, two more things on energy savings I'd just like to say. I missed this. Also down here at the end of our report, when we put those capacitors in, since we put the capacitors in, our average power rating has been 99.99. And don't forget, we pay that penalty if it's less than 95. And before we put the capacitors in, our average power rating was 90.87. So those capacitors are really a key, and I'm glad we implemented that on our own. That was some information, I believe, that came out of that UIC, University of Illinois Chicago report. And also they wanted us to put the variable speed on their non-potable water, and we've also done that too. So a couple things that we've done outside of the ESG project that have also helped us out with savings. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was we have not been running our blowers in our combined sewage storage basin. I always thought the blowers were more for mixing, but I've checked back in the operation and the maintenance manuals and talked to the engineer that designed it, and really the blowers are just to keep the water from going septic if it's be in there for long periods of time, and really we've been trying to get it out. As you know, we've had a lot of rain here lately. We've done a fantastic job of managing that, and we haven't, I thought there a few weeks ago we might be in a position where we might have an overflow from that basin. We haven't had one for going on 6 years now. Again, knock on some wood. We've only had one in 6 years, I should say. And last one was February of 18 when we had that heavy flooding. We've been doing very well. Everyone's worked together as a team, so that's been good. But we haven't been running the blowers, so I think that's also big energy savings. So I guess that's all I have on energy savings. Is there anything else? Okay, Blue Swag report is in your packet. Basically, it just contains updates on some of the MS4 program sites, and also residential, I hate the word flooding, but residential flooding reports, ponding, heavy ponding in yards and streets and stuff, and we've been working hard on that, but we haven't had a meeting because of COVID-19. So are there any questions on the Blue Swag report? Okay, moving on, the next thing that's on the agenda, and for those of you that were hand-delivered a packet, I sincerely apologize. This was like one of the main things I wanted to get on the agenda, and for some dumb reason I didn't get them copied in the packet, but it is on the virtual site, or the shared file site that we have, and then I also emailed it to you today. We have some work that we were doing with this company called Dynamic Motion Control, otherwise known as Run DMC, out of Chicago. They came and did a lot of work for us, a lot of new computer screen, I shouldn't say computer, but new monitoring screen, and all of our tags and our different pump rates and our levels and our DO levels, our water levels and our wet wells, our run speeds and everything. They put together a really nice outfit, worked together with our operators, and they got that done. I think they actually came in under budget, about $1,200 to $1,400 under budget on that. But there's still some other work that needed to be done after we updated our Wonderware historian and our Wonderware system in general. So these are some two projects that, you know, really desperately need to get done in the wastewater treatment plant, and they're very critical to our operations to continue our good compliance record. And I really thought they were going to be done in 2019, but for whatever reason, they did not get done. So these two proposals are in here, and I'm asking the board for approval. The DMC proposal is for $27,135, and we've drafted up a professional service agreement that we've sent to them to look at. And I'd like to get, I guess should we do these one at a time? I'd like to get the proposal, DMC proposal for $27,135 to enter into a professional service agreement approved by the board.
So, a motion on the professional service agreement, please.
Frank, I'd like to make a motion to approve Frank Harris.
Second.
Jeff will second it.
Is there any questions before we vote on it? I guess I should ask that beforehand.
Yeah, I have one. Do we have the network infrastructure, the computers, database network, file storage, everything, you know, to meet this network standards? So
In talking with Andy Metanek, our IT director, he tells me, yes, we do. We just need to have some additional engineering work that be done, and the second step is we need to have this Wonderware software and historian client 2017 upgraded.
Any other questions? Seeing that there's none, I'll ask for approval on the professional service agreement. Aye. Aye.
Vote.
Aye.
Tim, you need
Any
to...
opposed?
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Motion approved.
Okay, and then
Correct.
the second part that goes with this is Wonderware is a human interface software program that allows the operators and staff to, you know, monitor the facility. I don't know how many different things we monitor, hundreds and hundreds of different things that we monitor. And I can just tell you from very personal experience over the last 30 days that there's much needed upgrades in this area in our wastewater treatment facility. This definitely needs to be approved. Now, the total that they have on this quote, if you notice, it's from February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2019, for $19,676. Mr. Metanek explained to me that he thinks that probably could be an extra $5,000 might need to be added to this now. They also have a new client, a historian client, actually 2020 now. There's been some talk about, do we want to go with 2020 or do we want to stick with 17 and upgrade it later, because of the fact that sometimes you don't want to go with the brand new software. But what I'd like to ask the board is for approval for this Wonderware software, and I would like to ask the board for up to $25,000 worth of approval. I don't think it'll be that high, but this is something that really needs to get done. So if it comes in anywhere below that, I would like to be able to go ahead and approve that. So could I ask the board for a $25,000 limit for the Wonderware software upgrades that are necessary?
Can I get a motion, please, from the board?
Does the software, can you monitor remote?
The software, first of all, I need to back up a second because I was talking too fast and I didn't do my math correctly. The software monitors our equipment and reports back to the video screens, the TV screens or whatever, display screens, and it also allows us to go back in time. For instance, I'll get to it a little later, but we had an incident happen to us on Sunday. I asked Andy, can you monitor the DO? Give me a report on the DO every 30 minutes for several days on time. Then I asked for a report from a few years ago, so you could get a printout of what your data was showing in pretty much in a minute. We use it every month for our dissolved oxygen. It measures every second. It takes a dissolved oxygen reading, so we have to report the daily maximum every single day. So we download that into Microsoft Excel and the every second reading, and then Andy takes the average of those readings for the day, and that's what we report as our daily minimum DO to meet our daily minimum. And dissolved oxygen, for going out to the creek, you have to have a minimum. It's one of the few parameters. pH is another one where you have a minimum that you can't go below. Of course, pH has a high and a low. So it also does that. And that we right now, for instance, with our new blowers, since we've had those in 2018, we can't get any data on this Wonderware Historian from our new blowers because we need this upgrade. That's one of the things. And there's also many other upgrades that we need throughout our facility. So I hope that answers your question. And what I'd really like to ask for is, I would like to ask for up to $30,000 because I have a feeling it's going to be more than $5,000 extra. So I'd like to ask for approval for up to $30,000 for this Wonderware, just to make sure we get this and get this upgrade done. We started this project in 2016 and still not done yet. So.
So, any other questions from any commissioners? None. I'd like to entertain a motion, Mike, up to $50,000.
Yes, please.
For the software investigation.
So this is Hope. I have a quick question prior. I don't think you guys heard me, but are we up now? If I caught what you were saying, Michael, correctly, we're updating, or we were prepared to update, I believe, up to the 2017 software previously, and we didn't do it, and we couldn't get to it. There were reasons, I'm sure, but now it's 2020, and is it wise to just update to 2017, or is it necessary prior to updating additionally as software has become available?
Okay. First of all, let's back up a second. We already have a Wonderware, and we already have one license for one of our servers for this historian. And that is on an annual renewal. I'm not talking about that at all. That's just an annual renewal that we, put on of course, it's on the claim dockets when we renew it, okay? When we installed the new blowers, there's a second server that the blowers report to, and other equipment in the facility, that we do not have a license for Wonderware for that server. And this historian that we're getting here, in the Dream report, that's for the second server, okay? And the question is also, do we want to go to 17 or do we want to go directly to 20? Do we need to go to 17 version and then to 20? The answer is we could go directly to Wonderware Client Historian 20 if we wanted to. I can tell you that these DMC people who are highly recommended, and they really know what they're doing, they are personally a little reluctant to go right to 20 because it's so new that they're afraid we're going to put it in and we're going to have a lot of bugs. So like they were saying, we'd like to get the bugs worked out first before you upgrade to 20. Now, I don't know the difference in the costs, like is it, we're looking at this proposal's 19,000, is it gonna be another 19,000 to upgrade to 20? If it's gonna be another 19,000, we're just gonna go with 20 right off the bat, because there's no sense in that, okay? If it's only a few more thousand, that's some of the stuff that I want to evaluate, and we'll make a, educated and financial decision for the district if we can get your approval. I hope that answers your question. Does that answer your question, Holt?
Yeah, I read the proposal in its entirety, and it seemed like, yes, that did answer my question. Thank you.
So could I get or could we get an approval of this underwear for $30,000 maximum?
I'm looking for a motion, please.
Rep will make the motion.
I make a motion for
Up to $30,000 for Michael to look at the Wonderware software upgrade.
And I'll hold second it.
Great. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you for doing that. You've just made a lot of operators and a couple of engineers and a superintendent and an operations manager and a general manager very happy, because we need to get this done. Thank you very much. The next item that I had, I have it handwritten on my agenda. It's a memo that I sent out today to you. It's something that I've had on my to-do list for at least 30 days, and it's just never really found the time, but it's this request to purchase a semi-tractor and a dump trailer. I wrote a memo up. If it's okay with you, Commissioner Smith, I'd like to just kind of, read through the memo just a little bit. Is that okay?
Yes, please do.
Okay. As you know, our wastewater treatment facility produces sludge. In the business, we like to call it biosolids, and they have beneficial reuse for farmers. Our biggest product that we throw out there is the phosphorus, although the farmlands around here actually have pretty good phosphorus naturally, but the ammonia is certainly what the farmers are looking for. Really helps them out, especially with their corn. And we're receiving $4 a dry ton for our sludge, which is, I can tell you, going around to these different seminars and symposiums around the state, I don't even really like to talk about it, because I don't think there's another municipality around that's getting any money for their sludge. So that's a pretty good situation for us. I do know Chicago Metropolitan Sanitary District makes a pelletized product that they are actually selling, but that's a whole nother step that we're also looking into. I don't know if it's going to be cost effective for us or not. It's exciting and fun to look at, but I don't know if it's cost effective. Maybe at one of the future board meetings I'll bring something up about that. We typically haul our sludge in dump trucks at about 10.5 tons per load on average, and we typically, based on our typical generation, we make about 405 trips a year. If we had a semi-tractor trailer, because we could load that up to 25 tons, we could cut those trips down to approximately 170 trips, which is a 58% reduction. Therefore, our savings for hauling our sludge, there's an attachment to this that talks about wear and tear on the trucks at different values, and if you use a conservative number of $1.50 for wear and tear, if we had a semi-hauling truck, it would save us about $37,800 a year, and $1 per mile wear and tear would save us about $29,600 a year in transportation costs for our sludge. Also, if we had a semi-tractor trailer, we could use it to haul our grits and screenings and our street sweepings to the landfill up in Michigan that we haul to. And again, that would reduce the loads by 58%, because again, we put about 10.5 tons in the truck, and we could put 25 tons in these. And I did not prepare a thorough analysis, but just a quick looking at some quick numbers with our hauling, it looks like we could save an additional approximately $10,000 a year in hauling costs for that. So our total savings would be anywhere between $39,000 and $47,000 a year, just rounding some numbers off. And the one thing I also want to add is that back with the sludge. It's so critical for us to get this sludge out of here. We're limited on our storage, you know, we can make it through, provided we can get everything out in the spring and the fall that we need to. Those are the two windows of opportunity for land application. And this year we were working 10-hour days hauling with the dump trucks, and we still couldn't quite get it all out. Now, we would have been able to, but last spring, as you remember, it rained like every single day last spring, so we didn't really get too much out last spring. We had okay in the fall, so we still had some capacity issues there, but the semi-tractor trailer would allow us really a whole better opportunity to get our sludge out and more cost effective. Also, I did check on insurance, and on the high side, Charlie Keene said it would be about $1,800 a year on the high side. That might even have been for new equipment. So anyways, I'm still estimating in a savings of somewhere between $37,000 and $46,000 a year of savings. In trying to get some time to put together a really thorough memo, I came across a semi-tractor that was for sale in the port. Been meaning to stop and look at it. Finally, yesterday, I said to Darren, our chief mechanic, and our best mechanic, I should say, for engines and transmissions and stuff like that, I said, let's go take a look at it. We never had time yesterday, so we finally got a chance to look at it today. He felt like the unit was very, very good condition for its age. In fact, he was, quite impressed. I talked to him again this afternoon. He says, I just think it would be a good purchase for the district. They wanted $15,000 for it, so I asked them what's the bottom line they would take, and they said $13,500. So I'm asking, for that, I think would be a great deal for us. It also already has this WET, which sometimes is called a wet line transfer, and also the PTO, power takeoff unit, already has all that with a nice metal frame with a light on it and everything, with all the hoses and hookup that you need for the dump trailer. And I believe we could probably get a dump trailer for, around $20,000 or less for used. That's another one of those things. We could get a new one or a used one, but what I'm asking the board for is approval to purchase this used semi-tractor trailer from these people in the port, and to get a used dump truck, provided that we can justify these costs, so that we can save this money, this $30,000 to $40,000 a year of savings that I talked about. So I think that explains it. If there's any questions, I could answer any questions that I can, and past that, I'm asking for board approval.
Before I ask any questions from here, I'm looking at the various different comparisons that you gave us on the bid, and also things that we roll each year. I think that really the tractor trailer and the truck will pay for themselves in the first year, correct?
Yeah, definitely. And plus, we could use them for other things too, like, during spring cleanup, or if there's another point that was made to me, sometimes we have to haul snow. When you get those big snows, it'd be perfect for hauling snow, So there's a lot of uses for it. But yeah, it'll definitely pay for itself pretty quickly.
Any other questions?
Yes, I make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second? Yeah, also second. Thanks, folks. Favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do you have anything else?
No, that's all I had under updates and projects and so forth. So now we're on to item 10, which is the monthly reports from the staff members. First, I guess I'd like to ask if there's any questions about the reports, and then I've got a couple of things that I wanted to talk about that's happened here recently, just to update everyone.
Question, commissioners? Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank all the staff for the monthly reports. We've talked about these many times and how valuable they are and thorough they are. And I really appreciate the staff putting these reports together. And I think that it really helps them out in the long run too, because it really documents the work that they do. If anyone ever wants a question, you know, what do you guys really do? Here, read these reports. It'll show you all kind of stuff that gets done. And I know that Holt for one, and Tim, and actually all the board members, you've all complimented them on these reports, so we appreciate that. But a couple of things I wanted to talk about was in early May, we had some significant rain, or rain for like about 3 straight days. One of the things that we have a little bit of trouble with is another project that we really need to do is our controller for our raw influent it's something that was put in by McMahon and Associates back when the previous administration was here. I want to say it went online in 2010. And it's kind of an odd situation, because you would think you'd be able to set the plant for a certain flow, but you really can't set, you really in a sense automatically cannot set the plant for a certain flow, because it really only operates off the wet well height. So in immersing myself in the operations, you know, first of all, it's just a fascinating business, and working on wastewater treatment. And one of the most fascinating things about it is there's no way to stop it. I mean, it's not like you can shut the plant down and fix something or just change something. It's coming at you 24/7, 365 days a year. So one of the things that I did was I was able to take 2 of our pumps and set them at 80% variable speed, and that allowed the flow to stay pretty close to 15 million gallons. As our wet well rises up, there's a little more head pressure, so it'll actually, if it gets pretty high above 10 feet, it'll actually pump about 15.6 million gallons. Yesterday we were using it in the same mode, and it was only pumping about 13.8 or so, 14 million gallons, because the wet wells were down around 6 feet or so. But this is the first time the plant, that they ever really operated the plant in this mode, and it really worked out really well. We have some other controls where if you get too much flow, it'll go out to our basin and so forth. So we were able to do that, but it really hit home with me again that we really need to look at these raw influent controls that were put in 2010 and really try to you know, put some upgrades to that. So it's something we'll be talking to you about in the future. But I want to commend the staff who, you know, bared with me. You know, a lot of times, as you guys all know, when you're trying to do your job and the boss is coming around every 5 minutes trying to ask you what you're doing and why you're doing this and why you're doing that, you know, it can get a little heated and a little tiresome sometimes. But the staff put up with me, and actually we tried to work together really well, and everyone did a really good job, and we were able to not only avoid having an overflow, but we never even got any water into our third basin at all. So we still had plenty of room, but we wouldn't have had that room if we didn't make some of the changes that we implemented when the rain was coming down, because we would have certainly been probably half full in the North Basin. So that worked out well. One of the other things I wanted to talk about is our sand filter building. I know I took Jeff in there the other day. Jeff was really impressed with our little analog meter that we have in there that has a little needle on it that shows you the flow and stuff going through the plant. And he was saying, well, don't you think it's time to upgrade this facility a little bit here? And I was telling him how it still works. It works great. And the building works fantastic. One of the things we did, though, for the first time, according to Kevin Van Sickle, our chief mechanic, for the first time in 32 years, we put the sand filter building in auto. It has all these auto controls that can actually just pretty much run the plant by itself. It has these floats and so forth, and if it gets up, filter cell gets up too high, it'll shut the flow off to that cell, and then once it drains down, it'll let some more flow in, and then it'll get a backwash sequence. And I guess that there was a rumor going around the plant for a long time that if you put it in auto, once 2 filter cells call for backwash at the same time, that it locks the whole building out and bypasses the whole building, all the wastewater bypasses around the filter building. And for a few years I've been saying that just can't be true, and we talked about looking at it. Finally one day I told Kevin Mansick, I said, we're going to go try it. We're going to go do it. And he was kind of scared. I said, I don't care. We're going to try it. If we have a short, low bypass of the building, we'll put it back on and we'll report the item. Well, of course, we tried it, and it worked like clockwork. The facility has been working very, very good in auto since that time, and especially when the high flows. It was only a couple of days before we had all that rain that we tried it, and everyone was getting on me about, well, we're not going to leave it like this during the high flood. No, we're leaving it. We're going to leave it in auto. We're going to see how it did, and it did really well. There was one point in time where we had to go in and just do just a little bit of what we call bumping, where we did a quick little scour of the sand to help out. Do we have to do it, or not? We don't know, but we were trying to push as much flow through the plant. But other than that, I just want to tell you that the sand filters are good and working well. The first time in auto in 32 years, and it's really saving us a lot of money on backwashing too, because once we backwash that water, it all goes back, has to get pumped back to the head of the plant. One thing we do need to do there, though, is our backwash pumps is are kind of like the bottleneck, so we want to increase the flow rate of those, because a filter can only backwash. There's a well that the backwash water goes to, and if it's too high, if the next filter were to backwash, it would just overflow out onto the ground, and that's dirty water. That's water that's been cleaned out of the filter, so you can't have that. It would probably eventually flow to Trail Creek. So it has a program on there that won't allow another filter to backwash until it goes down to a set point, I think, of 5.9 feet. But it takes it a while to go back down, so we need to get a bigger pump in there. So I've got Ryan, our engineer, Ryan Byers, looking at sizing a bigger pump in there. That'll help us out even more, but I wanted to talk about all that. Then the third thing I wanted to mention was on Sunday, on Memorial Day weekend, while we were all relaxing, all of a sudden we got a call from our operators that we lost our aerators. Our new turbo Salzer blowers tripped out because of a high pressure situation. This is another example where there's no alarm. We're talking about going back to the DMC and the wonder where. Uh-oh, we lost somebody. Lose everybody? That's not good news, huh? Maybe they all hung up. Maybe there's a limit on how long you can have this meeting for. Are you guys still on the public line? No one's on the public line either? Are you still on TV?
Welcome to Turbo Bridge. Please enter your conference ID and press the pound key. Please record your name after the tone and press the pound key.
It's Michael.
This call is being recorded.
Michael?
Yeah, I'm back. Are you guys all back?
Conference.
He's back.
All right. So I was just trying to make the point of Sunday we lost our blowers. We had no alarm. There is a screen that shows the flow rate. Could the operator have noticed the flow rate went down to 0? Yes, he probably should have and could have, but he did notice it when he went on his 6 o'clock round, gave us a call. We ended up firing up one of our old blowers. Good thing we didn't take those out. In the short term, then we worked on getting our one of our new Salzer blowers back online, which we were able to do, and we were watching it very closely, running it in manual at 80%, and our DO increased. And we did our monitoring. Ammonia is the first parameter you worry about in those situations, and we met our ammonia limit. Normally we're at like 0.02. We're up to 0.35 now. We're still in compliance. I think our limit is 1.7, I want to say. So we're still in compliance. But again, in some respects, it's some issues with the facility and some operations, but in a second respect, everybody jumped in and did what they needed to do to avoid a bigger problem. That ammonia could have caused a fish kill if we didn't get right on it right away. So those were the three things I wanted to talk about with operations, and I appreciate you guys listening. And sorry that we got disconnected. So I guess we're up to item 11. Mr. Meyer, are you still with us? Anybody on the line still?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
Steve's here. Mike's here. McCoy's here.
Oh, this is the public line now, huh? I dialed the wrong, that's the problem. I got the wrong thing going here. That's the public line. Okay, so you guys already knew all this already. I've dialed the public line on the other phone. Did you guys get knocked out on the other line?
I did.
Steve,
Welcome to Turbo Bridge.
were you on the public line the whole time or not?
The pound key.
This is Steve. I dialed in the number at the top of the agenda.
Please record your name after the tone and press the pound key.
It's Michael. Anybody still there from the board?
There are 6
Are the,
parties in the conference.
are the board members on the line?
Recorded.
It's Michael. Are the board members on the line? Anybody still there from the board?
I'm here.
Joined the conference.
Michael, we're all here and we're all here. Then we're into the rest of the, we're waiting for you.
Okay.
So we'll jump back up.
Very good. So you already went through the, Mr. Myers' comments?
Yeah, and we approved the rest of the tax study.
Okay, very good. And,
Any last comments or anything from you, Michael?
oh, I was just trying to mention that on Sunday, we lost our aeration, to our plant. I've said this a couple of times now, but I guess not everybody heard it because the phone kicked out. And it's another example of where we really need that upgrade to the SCADA system and our Wonderware and stuff because we didn't really have the proper alarms. We were able to come in and get the blower started again. First we turned our old blower on, one of our old blowers, then we got one of the new Salzer blowers going again, and we increased the air as much as we could. And ammonia is one of the parameters that you tend to have a problem with right away when you lose your aeration, and we met our compliance with that so far. Normally we're around 0.02. I think our limit's 1.7 on a daily maximum, and right now we've been running at about 0.35 or 0.3 for the last couple of days, but we're still in compliance. But it was a kind of a bad thing that had happened and showed the need for the Wonderware upgrade, but also a good thing everybody rallied around the problem and fixed it up right away. So I've said it a few times now. The people that are want to watch us on TV heard it 3 times. So.
Mike, the other thing is that I want to thank you and your team for coming in and hear the problem. So, that's dedication to you and the team, and how hard you guys work for the city. So.
Well, thank you very much. So that's all I had.
Okay, and I have your comments on the report. Dave McCoy this month out of the 17-day presentation, the stormwater, has to have increased our sanitary district everything going on. So I would be curious to see, what the city homeowner has taxed our system, if anything at all. If you guys have any analysis on that.
Are you asking how it's affected our revenues, or how the stay-at-home order has affected operations at the plant with the staff?
Well, no, just, is there more solids, more, I would assume, the plant has had an uptake in usage through the last 2 months. I'm not, but I'm just curious about that.
No, we haven't really noticed any drastic difference. Some of the governmental agencies, such as the schools and so forth, have had some issues, but we don't get as much flow from them. Blue Chip Casino obviously is down. The restaurants have been closed, so we haven't been seeing as much flow. So if anything, we may have seen a little a little less of loads from those types of facilities. I know today they brought the grease in from the blue chip and it was excessively strong, but they probably haven't pumped it out for a while because, they have been closed, but they're probably thinking about trying to get reopened soon. So, but other than that, we haven't had any other operational issues. The biggest operational issue is the rain. That's the biggest problem.
Okay. Any other questions from any of the commissioners? If not, I'll ask for a motion. Sure.
I'll make a motion for adjournment, that's fine.
Thanks, Frank. Second? Jeff will second. Stand adjourned, and I thank you for their time today.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. You did a nice job running the meeting.
Thank you. Nice job, Tim. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.